I'm convinced, excuse me, I'm convinced that the things that happen to us day in, day out are not just accidental. That, especially as we remember the Lord and have our focus on Him, like we covenant to do in the sacrament prayers, always remember Him, that we may always have His Spirit to be with us. That's such a meaningful, ordinance and challenge for us each week. I've mentioned before that we can say, well, that's impossible. We can't always do that. We've got livelihoods to make, and we've got things to do and places to go. And yet, as I think about it, that's the very key to keeping that covenant, is to focus on how we can do that always. If we can see the Lord's hand in things, the weather patterns, the birds we see and hear, the changing of the seasons, even the flow of traffic, if you can think about that, is quite remarkable. And the Lord's hand has played a part in all of that. All the inventions that we have, all the science and technologies and health improvements, and how that just keeps advancing all the time. That wouldn't have advanced had it not been for the light given to those who invented those things and who thought about those things. And that light is, in my view, and in the scriptures, I can find it multiple places. Section 88 comes to mind. I won't get it out right now, but it says, I am the life and the light of the world. So as we go through the world each day, and we're looking for the light and the life and the products of that life and light, all the things that exist around us and in nature, even the air we breathe, and the bodies we have to breathe it with. If we can keep a central focus and acknowledge the Lord's hand in all things, He has told us that in nothing is He offended, except that if we don't acknowledge His hand in all things. It's an important skill to develop, one that pays big dividends, one that takes us places that we really want to be. And too often we're just so concerned about this and that and this problem and that problem, and we really don't focus so much on some of the other things that surround us that are absolutely wonderful, life-saving, minute-by-minute things. We don't take time to reflect. It can be done, I know that. I'm reminded of a friend that I had that once said, when we were just passing the time of day, and we were saying, well, how are you doing? And he said, well, I'm still able to put my pants on in the morning without leaning against the wall. And for some reason, that stuck with me. And I find myself now in the mornings, every day when I put my pants on, I think of that statement and I think, wow, it's going to be a great day. I was able to put my pants on without leaning against the wall. Now that might seem silly to you, but isn't it interesting that some little statement to me by a friend, just in casual speaking, can now be remembered by me every day, every single day when I put my pants on. But I like to carry it one step further, because it's not just luck that I was able to do that. I was able to keep my balance because I have a body that's able to do things, including putting my pants on without leaning against the wall most days. And I guess if I had to lean against the wall, I should be grateful for the wall. But when I wake up in the morning and I open my eyes, because we're told to always remember him, right? You open your eyes, I make it a habit each morning to, when I open my eyes and I look at the ceiling, and I like to take a big breath of air in. And I usually hold it for a while before I let it out, and then I let it out slowly, and I think, it's another day. And I like to start it by taking that big breath and think of all the different exchanges that are going on from that breath of air into my bloodstream and this and that. And I see the Lord's hand in things. And if I think back on the night, even though as an old man now, I have to get up 2 or 3 times for things I don't want to talk about, but I recognize the Lord's hand in that too, because I'm able pretty much to go back to bed and fall asleep again without too much trouble. So there's things we can do to recognize the Lord's hand. I remember days when I would, along with my wife, we'd plant garden. My mother-in-law was involved in that a lot back in the days. And my father-in-law too, there in Lake Town where we raised our family. And it was just interesting to see how all of us working together, working the soil and fixing the rows and making sure that the seedlings were planted correctly and everything, the spacing was right and this and that and the other, that we were able to plant those seedlings. And first of all, that we were able to plant them, that there was a seed there to plant. Isn't that quite a remarkable thing? Think about that. Harvest a cob of corn, get some seeds off of it, and away you go. Plant another cob for the next year when you raise your garden. All of the different fruits and potatoes and all of those things. We'd put the potatoes in a root cellar, and when we plant the garden in the spring, we'd go down in that root cellar and get some potatoes of the variety that we wanted. And we'd cut them into little pieces because they were starting to get what we call wobbly, and they weren't much usable for table potatoes anymore. And we'd cut them so that they were what we'd call the eyes, little areas of the potato that we knew were going to have a sprout. Sometimes you could already see the sprout starting when you cut it. And we'd usually try to cut them so there would be 2 or 3 sprouts in each little potato piece. And we'd throw a couple of them in each hole for good measure and step on it, stomp it down, start off to the next hole. Well, it's just remarkable that potato can yield a whole bunch of other potatoes, and they can all be good and hard and usable. And we'd sack them up and take them into the root cellar again for another year. Well, you can go through the events of your life every day just like it's something to do, or you can appreciate what you got and recognize the source and give thanks for it. Show gratitude. I used to talk to cattlemen, and we had some cattle too that was there on my father-in-law's place, and we worked with those and had a couple of my own. I wasn't what you'd call a cattleman, but I worked with cattle and had a neighbor rancher that I worked for in the summer times. Did a lot of horse riding and cattle driving and calving and all of those kinds of things. And I guess the reason I mentioned it is because, let's take it just a cowboy. And I remember using this as an example once, a priesthood lesson I caught, because somebody asked me, how can we always remember? And I said, well, you're a rancher. Let's say you're out trying to take care of a calf that has scours and you want to give it a pill. How are you going to do it? And so you get on your horse, but it's kind of icy in the spring of the year, and you have to be careful with your horse. And if you can swing a rope, well, you can eventually catch the calf. Well, let's just stop there for a minute. Having the horse, being able to swing a rope, that skill, having that so the horse doesn't slip and fall on the ice and break your leg, all of those things should be credited to the Lord. And so now you catch the calf and you get off your horse, you go over and you tie it, or you lay it down so that you can get there's a long tube that you put a pill in, stick it down its mouth, and hopefully it's going to make that calf so it doesn't just run off and die somewhere. And the calf gets up and runs off. But in the process of all that, let's review again. In the process of all that, aren't we grateful that there's even medicine to give the calf? Who invented that? Somebody had the light of Christ. That inventive, creative power came from somewhere. And like I said, it explains it in section 88 of the Doctrine and Covenants and lots of other places. And so that little calf gets up and runs off. Then do we ever just take our hat off for a minute, put it over our heart, bow our head and say, thanks, God. I'm grateful for your help in helping me to help that calf live. Well, I could go on in the life of a rancher, day in, day out, everything they do. And guess what? You can do it with any vocation. You just have to be aware and alert and attentive to what's going on around you and give proper credit and thanks and have a deep felt gratitude, a connection. It's a relationship that's formed when you always remember him. So let me just tell you about a story that transpired this last weekend with me that made me feel the Lord's love. I'm going to read this. There is a scripture that's found in 1 Nephi, and it's in chapter 21. It's in verses 15 and 16. And if you get in there and read it, which I recommend that you do, you'll notice that it's taken from our Isaiah chapters 49 and 16, I believe it is, has this same wording in it. And if I remember right, I said it in the last upload that I made in some other, referencing something else. I don't remember what now. But I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to reference it in this story that I'm going to tell you. It says, this is the Lord speaking of his chosen Israel. Remember, President Nelson said, Israel can be defined as those who let God prevail in their lives. Well, the only way you can let God prevail is if you're thinking about him, giving him credit, following his commandments, heeding his word, hearkening, so that we're not hardened. She says this to those who will let God prevail, chosen Israel. 1 Nephi 21, verse 15. For can a woman forget her suckling child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, they may forget, yet will I not forget thee, O house of Israel. I will not forget thee. There's that relationship that he wants. And he wants us to have it back with him. Well, let me go on. Behold, he says, and this part almost brings tears to your eyes if you'll stop long enough and think about it, meditate on it. Behold, I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands. A little reflection on that statement will tell you exactly what he's thinking. Because the palms of his hands have nails, holes in them, where he was hanging on the cross. And who was he hanging on the cross for? Yeah, me. You. Do we value that enough to always remember him? Do we really? I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands. Thy walls are continually before me. Well, a wall that is something that keeps us from going where we want to go. And have you ever run into those kind of obstacles? Something that just seems to keep holding you back and holding you back. And you can't figure out what's wrong. And then he says, thy walls are continually before me. In other words, I won't forget you. I'll help you tear down that wall. Now, he doesn't say, I'll tear it down for you, because there's a relationship and there's agency and there's choices to make. And one of those choices is to always remember him. One of those covenant statements that we have a tendency to forget. Always remember him. I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands. Thy walls are continually before me. Now I'm going to tell you just a story to show you how human I am and how I need guidance. Sometimes even when I think I've got things right and I pray about things, I still need the Lord's guidance to get it right and to make sure. But I have to have him on my mind all the time. Well, the story is this. It has to do with a chicken coop. Now, keep in mind, I'm 75 years old, and I've raised chickens several times during my life, but I got the bug. The other day I was down to the tractor store and they had chicken coops on sale. And first I just started looking at a pen, and then I thought, well, it's got to have a little coop on the back. And then I found out that like I said, that they're on sale, and they said, well, if you put them on your card, you can get another 5% off. And I started thinking, maybe I'd like some chickens, and maybe it'd actually do my wife some good, because I know she likes. I've seen her she likes to just sit out and watch the chickens peck and hear their little clucky sounds. Once we had a little pet duck out here that the neighboring grandchild had brought over. Started with 3, but by the time we got them, they were down to 1. And so my wife took over the duck, and it's just a duck they found up in the field, I think it was under their trampoline, actually. It's where they found them. No mother. But my wife took over that duck, and she started liking the duck, and she raised it and put it in the bathtub, and it was kind of cute to watch her. Well, that story kind of ended in a way she didn't want it to, because finally the duck got big and grew wings, and it's time for the duck to move on, and I volunteered to take it out to a pond and let it loose and see if it could get back to its own kind. And I did that, but I didn't please my wife in the pond that I picked. and bless her heart, she loved that little duck. So I'm thinking all these kinds of things while I'm sitting in the tractor store trying to figure out whether I should buy a chicken coop or not, and whether or not she could actually bond with those chickens and it'd fill a need. That was a part of it, I guess, and we both kind of grown up on the farm and we use eggs, so I thought, well, it's something we could do. We could probably afford it if they're on sale. So I made the deal. Then I came home and told my wife about it, and she wasn't so anxious about the deal as I was. I could tell by her comments she had some reservations. But she kind of eventually, how should we say, accepted it, which in my relationship with her through the years, she's always resisted anything new. She likes to have, just the security of not changing too much, whether it's buying houses or land or whatever, anything that involves long-term commitments, which chickens kind of do. So if I could read her correctly, she'd kind of resigned herself to, well, it wasn't really something she thought was wise, but she let it go along with as long as I did the work and took the blame, so to speak. So I didn't have the truck or the right vehicle to bring it home in, and they had a free delivery service, so I scheduled the delivery. Well, when I scheduled the delivery, I found out it was done by a third party, and I didn't know what day it was going to get delivered, and she said they'll just call you and let you know when they're coming. And this was on a Saturday, and I said, so when will it be today? Well, she didn't think so today, but maybe tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's Sunday. Anyway, I thought, well, whatever. And I bought a couple of planter boxes because she likes to raise flowers, and she has a hard time bending down anymore. And I thought if she had some topsoil in these planter boxes, that it would help. So I made that order, and it was going to be delivered. Well, next day we get up and go to church. It was kind of a later church that we went to, but I had no sooner gotten out of church than I got a phone call from these people that were delivering it, and they brought it to my house, or they were up to my house, and it took me about 5 minutes to get from the church back to my house. And they had it on their wagon all right, or their trailer, and was ready to unload it. And then I looked at it pretty carefully. They took the planter boxes off, and I started looking at it, and I thought, I don't know if that's the one I actually ordered. It was all in a box, so it's hard to tell. I said, I don't know if that's the one I actually ordered. Let me just climb up there and see if I can, because I knew the name of it. I'll see if I can figure it out. Well, anyway, long story short, I got up and looked around and found out that it wasn't the one I ordered. The one I ordered was a little bit bigger than the one they brought. And so then we had to arrange to the disappointment of those who had driven clear from Salt Lake to deliver it, a way to get it back down to the store, which is just here in town, not very far away. 5 or 10, less than 10-minute drive to return it. And I said, well, fine, then just take it back. And they had to take everything back, the planter boxes and all. And then they said, you just have to call up and let us know when you want us to bring it. Well, I mentioned it to my daughter, who has a chicken coop and was about to get some chickens of her own. Not too far, they didn't live too far away. And I had gone up where I was going to put it, and yeah, there was room there, but then I got looking at the hill that was going up to where it would be, and it was kind of steep and through some trees, and my wife just doesn't get along very well in the trees or steepness, and I started worrying about her being able to make that trip on a regular basis, and she was, whether she'll want me to admit it or not, she was really the biggest reason that I was going to do the whole project. So I started having a stupor of thought about whether or not I was even doing the right thing. And I don't want to drag this out too much further, but what happened is those thoughts just keep increasing and doubts kept arising, and I went down on Monday and canceled the order. I said, you didn't bring the right one, and it's still out there, and I haven't, I don't want you to bring it up because I've changed my mind. I've talked to some people, and I've had some feelings that just make it so I don't want it anymore. So this scripture that I just read you came to mind because, again, I'm trying to see the Lord's hand in all things. Always remember him. For can a woman forget her suckling child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, they may forget, yet will I not forget thee, O house of Israel. Behold, I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands. Thy walls are continually before me. I don't know why, but as soon as I made the decision to cancel that order and got it canceled, I had this peaceful feeling come over me, like you did the right thing. You made the right choice. Way to go. You did it. And then I started thinking, where'd that feeling come from? And I got the feeling that the Lord saw that as a wall that was going to keep me from getting where I was to where I needed to be. And I don't think he wanted me to be tied down with chickens and chicken feed and whether they're rained on or whether the eggs are gathered and whether the coop needs cleaning and all of that kind of thing. I just don't think the Lord wanted me in that realm. I think he was making better use of me somewhere else and helping me progress better without all of that, what I have termed as chaff. I was putting chaff back on the table. And then that scripture, I will not forget thee. I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands. Thy walls are continually before me. And so he helped me tear down that wall, and I went in and canceled it. And the minute I did, I got a peaceful feeling. I don't know if you've had experiences like that or not. But I'm so grateful that he did that for me. That he took that wall down that was going to prevent me from having some even meditation time or time serving other people or whatever. I just feel like he understood me. He knew where I was. He knew where I needed to go. And those chickens and that chicken coop and everything that comes with it was just going to interfere. And I think he knew it. Well, I relate that story and I could relate others. But if you've had those kind of feelings, don't dismiss the Lord's hand in it. Maybe you got turned around. Maybe you got denied. Maybe you got rejected. It can come in a number of forms. And maybe it was all for your good. Like I've said before, we've been told by general authorities to not say, why me? Why me? Why did they deliver the wrong coop to me? Not why me, but what am I to learn from this? And I think I learned some things. First of all, I learned that the Lord loves me and he's got a plan for me. I'm reminded also of another scripture that I'm going to try to hurry and turn to if I can, that kind of relates to this. It's in, Doctrine and Covenants. I think it's in section 9. And this is where they're in the translation process. Joseph and Oliver are in that translation process in the Book of Mormon. And they get to a point where the Lord's not helping them anymore. Just like, he's not going to help me buy that chicken coop. Well, this is what he says to them. Because they start wondering, well, why? Why can't we translate like we used to? Why isn't the inspiration coming? What's wrong? Why are we having this privilege taken away from us? And he said, do not murmur, my son. This is Doctrine and Covenants 9, verse 6. Do not murmur, my son, for it is wisdom in me that I have dealt with you after this manner. I have dealt with you after this manner. I have had a hand in getting the wrong chicken coop delivered to you so that you would have to reject it and I could take some more time and actually get inside your mind and heart and help you see that it was the wrong thing. Can you see what I'm saying? It kind of corresponds with what Joseph and Oliver were receiving from the Lord. Behold, you have not understood. You have supposed, he tells them, that I would give it to you, and you took no thought save it was to ask me. But behold, I say unto you that you must study it out in your mind. And I have to admit, I just went into the tractor store and had the thought, saw it was on sale, and pretty much pulled the trigger. I didn't really study it out in my mind or pray like I should have to begin with. I just did it and then tried to sell my wife on the idea later. Okay. But behold, I say unto you, you must study it out in your mind, that you must ask me if it be right. And if it be right, I will cause your bosom that will burn within you. You'll just feel like, oh man, this is exactly what I need to do. I've done the right thing. I feel it all over. Well, that wasn't me on this chicken coop. You shall feel that it is right. Verse, I'm clear down to 9 now, in Doctrine and Covenants 9. But if it not be right, ye shall have no such feelings. Well, that's where I was on the chicken coop. But you have a stupor of thought. Yeah, stupor of thought was kind of coming before they brought me the wrong chicken coop. And after they brought me the wrong chicken coop, I thought, well, now's my chance. I don't have to cancel. I won't cause anybody any problems. I'll just cancel the order. But if it not be right, you shall have no such feelings, but you shall have a stupor of thought that shall cause you to forget the thing which is wrong. Wherefore ye cannot write that which is sacred, save it be given you from me. I was talking to him about translating the records that would become the Book of Mormon. But the same applications, save it be given you from me, he had to impress upon my mind with his chicken coop business. And I can't tell you, after I canceled that order, I just had the instant they gave me the receipt showing the cancellation, I felt this peaceful feeling come over me. It wasn't a burning in the bosom. And that peaceful feeling didn't come until they handed me that receipt. I'd actually changed my mind, because I think the Lord's got other plans for me. Well, always remember him, I guess, is the message for all this. We can do it. Whether it's waking up in the morning and taking a deep breath, putting our pants on without leaning against the wall, or acting on the impression that you better take the chicken coop or reject the chicken coop and forget that whole scheme. He'll always remember us, because he has graven us upon the palms of his hands, and our walls are continually before him. What a marvelous relationship that is. I feel it, and I hope you feel it, and I hope we both feel it more prevalently and more often and with greater confidence. I love you. I hope you've enjoyed all this and maybe learned from it. Maybe it's brought some memories to you, or some thoughts that you've had in the past, or maybe it will guide you somewhere in the future. That's my prayer. Because thy walls are kind of before me too. It's just that I'm not as great as he is. I'm not as great a deliverer, therefore. So take his deliverance over mine any day. Good night. Have a good day tomorrow.